Hi everyone, thanks for joining me. You're watching In Deep on the Delta. This is the weekly report for December 15th. And I want to start off by just thanking all you guys for hanging in there with me through the winter months. I know the fishing has been tough out here and a lot of you guys are just kind of checking in to see what's going on with the river. So I really appreciate that. You guys, your support, keeping the channel going when the fishing conditions are tough out here. And actually the fishing this last week has been pretty good. I'm kind of happy to give you a report this week, but we'll talk about the stripers, we'll talk about the largemouth bass, then I'll let you guys get back to your holiday gatherings and Christmas shopping and things like that. So river news, what's going on out here? Not a whole lot of tournaments going on. Next week we have the hook, line, and sinker tournament Sunday the 18th, so that'll give us an idea. You know, we'll have a lot of guys out fishing, and I'll get the report on that and relay that to you guys next week. We had a storm come in on Saturday, dropped a couple inches of water, and we had probably 35-mile-an-hour winds out here. So we're going to pick the report up from that point. We don't want to talk a whole lot about what happened last week because it's changed so dramatically. So how did the storm affect the river itself? Not much. The water temperatures have been steady out here for a couple of weeks, 48 to 50 degrees. If you get out here early, you may see 47. If it's a day like today when the sun comes out midday, it might go up to 52, but 48 to 50 degrees is what we've been seeing. Water clarity has changed slightly. The last couple weeks, I'll say it's been from 4 to 8 feet of visibility. Now it's probably 3 to 6 feet of visibility. So not a lot of change in the clarity. What has changed is the color of the water, and it's changed from that tinge of kind of a greenish delta tinge to a more of a brownish tinge. And I really like the color of water right now, especially if you're fishing for largemouth bass and you're throwing blades or jerk baits. It's really that kind of stained water, really good color. So conditions are really good right now. As far as stuff floating down the river, that big slug of hyacinth that we've been seeing the last couple of weeks, it's made it kind of hard to navigate through, is pretty much broken up. You know, there's still a little bit going down the river, but not a whole lot. So water conditions are great. Fish are biting out here. It's not at a torrid pace, believe me. The guys that are out here are catching fish, but it's not summertime conditions, and you know, it's not going to be summertime conditions till for a few months. But anyhow, let's get into the stripers. If you're wondering if that storm pushed in the fish from the bay, it hasn't. There's still a bunch of fish out there, and they haven't flooded into the system, but it could be any day. As soon as those fish get enough fresh water in their noses, they're going to come up here and they're going to be flooding into the system, and I think we're going to have a really good striper year. But right now, if you are concentrating on stripers, just remember most of the fish are still out in Sassoon Bay, Grizzly Island, Sacramento River. If you're going to concentrate on catching a better class of striper, you want to be fishing the channel, I'll say from Frank's Track out to the Sacramento River and out in that area. Now, if you can't get out there, if you're a local fisherman, you're fishing out of Paradise Point or you're fishing out of Ladd's, fish are still in the system, and the guys that closer to town, when I say the system, they are fish in the central delta, and everyone that I know that's going out is coming home with a limit. They're having to work for them, and most of the guys that are limit fishing are fishing live bait under bobbers. They're throwing primarily bluegill. If they catch shiners or something, they'll throw shiners under a bobber, and a lot of the guys are fishing the irrigation pumps, going from pump to pump and just fishing live bait under bobbers. The fish aren't big, keeper size to maybe 22, 24 inches, but they're putting in their time and they're catching fish, and that's what it takes this time of year. I do know that the guys that have been throwing plugs this last week has taken a little drop in the plug fishing. So if you want to catch fish, you want to stick to trolling or live bait drifting. So that's the striper report. We'll get right into the largemouth bass report, and like I said, we're going to get a hook, line, and sinker tournament this Sunday. So I'll have some information on how that goes next week. I also want to talk to you guys about a two-part video that I just loaded up, and it's called Forgotten Finesse Techniques. That's the forgotten finesse technique that I talk about is a drop shot worm, a split shot worm technique, and I've been doing really well on that the last week or so. And what I wanted to talk about, the first part of that video just goes through, some basic information, and it shows some of the catches. Now next Tuesday I'm going to show all of the catches over again, but I'm going to give some commentary about why I was getting those bites, and I think this will be important for a lot of you guys that are fishing the winter out here, because I'm going to talk about not only how I was getting the bites and little subtle things that I was doing to pick up a few extra fish, but I'll talk about when the fish were biting on the tide and the moon phase. And I think that's important if you come out for bass this next week. Look at the moon phase and the tide, and I'll tell you, the tide that I have been catching the fish on is the incoming tide about an hour to 2 hours before it gets to high tide. So when that tide is coming in right before it gets to high tide, and when you see, you look on your charts and you see some lunar activity, that's when the fishing has been the best. What have I been throwing? I've been sticking to two baits. I've been sticking to jerk baits and worms. The worm technique that I've been using is this split shot worming that I talk about in the Forgotten Finesse Technique video. The two colors that I have been using for jerk baits are the Stunna, and that's kind of that gold black back with an orange belly, and I've also been having good luck on the 110, the Vision 110, with a chartreuse belly and a blue back. Those are the two colors that I've been using for jerk baits. I've been getting smaller fish on jerk baits, and I've been getting my fish on jerk baits in cuts where the water's coming through either through Tule Islands, or fishing some of the cuts or the breaks in the banks in some of the islands. I'm getting smaller fish in that moving water. I'm getting my bigger fish on the worming technique, and when I'm fishing the worms, I'm fishing Tule banks that have vegetation that has a drop off in about 6 to 8 feet of water, and I'm fishing right on the edge of that drop off, or I'm throwing it into shallow water, pulling it over the edge to that drop off, and I will explain all of that in that finesse technique, forgotten finesse technique. We're going to let that keep running right now because I'm going to finish up this thing. So those are the two techniques that I've been fishing, and I think if you come out here this next week, we're going to have a stable, fairly stable barometer. The weather's going to be nice, and just disregard that right now. Matter of fact, let me turn that off. Hey Jeff, how you doing? Hey, guess what? I'm filming my report right now. Do you mind if I put you on?
Oh, no problem.
Okay. Well, let everybody know what's going on with the fishing, the striper fishing.
Fishing's been great still. We lost Saturday because of the weather, and Sunday we got out, got it in before the winds came, and they were biting.
Well,
we knocked out 6 limits, back to the dock right when the wind came up. The wind came up, and we stuck them out a little bit, back to the dock by, I think, 11 o'clock.
Are you fishing flats, points, moving water?
I'm fishing moving water, depending on how fast the current's moving. When we're losing the current, I'm fishing edges of the channel on the San Joaquin. And as we get the current, I push up into a little bit of shallower or a lot shallower water. That's kind of been key for us.
And when you say shallow and deep water, that's relative. When you're talking about deep water and moving into shallow water, what's the depth of the deep water, and what's the depth of the shallow water you're chasing the fish into and catching them?
Right now we're fishing right at the edge of the channel. So I feel like I'm starting at 38 feet, drifting up to like maybe 25, and as the current picks up, those fish just disappear. We're marking them heavy, and they just disappear. And then you push up at shallower, say 12 feet of water, 8 feet, 12 feet of water, and we find them again.
All right. Well, that's good information, bonus information for you guys that are watching. And Jeff, I'll let you go right now because I am in the middle of this, and I'll talk to you next week. And hopefully, that's a great report. I know the fish are there; they just have to be found and caught.
That's it. We're going to keep fishing until the river gets blown out or the fish stop biting.
Okay, there it is, guys. Fish till the river gets blown out or they stop biting. Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.
All right, take it easy. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, a little bonus coverage up to the minute. So anyhow, more striper information. What was I saying? I'll get back to I'll wrap this up with the largemouth. They're biting. Don't expect them to bite throughout the day. The bite windows have been lasting about 30 to 45 minutes, which are really good because you can catch 7 or 8 fish. You get those fish, and you get a little action, and then it slows down, and then it's going to be tough. You'll be getting one bite now, one bite a little later, and you just got to grind through it. But with that, make sure you guys, if you're looking to get some pre-holiday fishing in, this next week's going to be good. As far as weather-wise, the river will be beautiful. We're not going to have tides, great tides. The tides are going to be actually pretty slow, so I don't expect the fishing to really perk up, but it should be steady. So thank you guys for watching. Make sure you send in your yearly reports. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and if you like the information, make sure you hit the like button, and we'll see you guys next week.